Olivia Turner was used to being in control. At 28, she had already achieved more than most could dream of. As the CEO of a thriving tech company, she had spent years building her empire from the ground up. Long hours, sleepless nights, and endless meetings had made her a force to be reckoned with in the tech world. She had become a symbol of success, a young woman in a male-dominated industry, proving that anything was possible. Her sleek office in the heart of the city was always filled with the hum of activity. She had a tight schedule and nothing could get in the way of her next big project. One morning, after an important meeting that had gone well, Olivia found herself driving across the city. Her mind was racing with thoughts of the next presentation she had to give. She had already mentally prepared for it, but she liked to go over the details in her head one last time before arriving. Olivia's life was a constant whirlwind. She was always running from one thing to the next, always making sure her business never took a back seat. But sometimes life had a way of surprising you when you least expected it. As she cruised down a busy street trying to make her way through traffic, she heard an odd sound, a loud thud. Before she could even react, the car jerked slightly to the left. Her heart skipped a beat. She had driven enough to know what had happened, the unmistakable flat tire. She pulled over to the side of the road, her frustration mounting. "Not today," she muttered under her breath, glancing at the clock on the dashboard. She was already running late for her next meeting, and this was the last thing she needed. She sat in the car for a moment, contemplating her next move. She could call roadside assistance, but knowing how long that would take, she doubted she would make it to her meeting on time. It was a busy street, and the last thing she wanted was to sit there waiting, feeling the pressure of the clock ticking away. She decided to get out and check the tire, hoping it would somehow be an easy fix. But as she stepped out of the car and looked at the deflated tire, her optimism faded. It was a mess. There was no way she could fix it on her own. As she stood there trying to figure out what to do, she noticed a police car pull up behind her. Olivia had always been the kind of person who liked to handle things on her own. She didn't often rely on others for help, especially not strangers. But in this situation, she had no choice. The officer who stepped out of the car looked calm and collected. He was tall, with a strong build, wearing a neat police uniform. Olivia, still frustrated, couldn't help but notice the way he moved, confident but unhurried, like someone who had done this 100 times before. The officer smiled at her, his eyes warm but professional. "Need some help with that?" he asked, gesturing toward the flat tire. Olivia hesitated for a second. She wasn't sure if she wanted to rely on a stranger, but she was running out of options. Plus, it was a busy street, and the idea of standing there alone in the hot sun was not appealing. "I would appreciate it," she said reluctantly, her voice tinged with frustration. The officer, who introduced himself as Marcus Coleman, was quick to assess the situation. He had been on the force for several years, and helping people in need was something he genuinely enjoyed. He didn't think twice about stopping to lend a hand, especially when he saw someone struggling. "No problem," he said, already pulling out his equipment from his car. He moved around with an easy grace, setting to work without wasting any time. Olivia stood there watching him. There was something about his demeanor that immediately put her at ease. She was used to dealing with high-stress situations, but for some reason, Marcus's calm and steady presence made everything feel less chaotic. She couldn't help but notice how competent he was. His hands moved quickly and efficiently, and he seemed to know exactly what he was doing. There was no rush in his movements, no signs of irritation, just a quiet focus. As he worked, Olivia found herself falling into a casual conversation with him. At first, it was small talk about the weather, her car, and the crazy traffic. But soon, the conversation began to flow more easily. She was surprised at how comfortable she felt talking to him. Most of the time, she didn't have time for such casual chats. She was always so focused on work, always pushing herself to achieve the next goal. But with Marcus, she felt like she could take a breath and just enjoy a simple moment. They talked about their jobs, their experiences, and what brought them to this point in their lives. Olivia shared a bit about her company and how challenging it could be to keep everything running smoothly. She admitted that sometimes it felt like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Marcus listened intently, offering the occasional words of encouragement. He talked about his work as a police officer and how much he valued helping people. It was clear that he was someone who believed in making a difference, no matter how small the action might seem. There was a surprising level of understanding between them, despite the differences in their worlds. Olivia realized, as she stood there talking with him, that this was the first time in a long while that she had felt a genuine connection with someone outside her professional circle. She was used to speaking with colleagues, investors, and clients, but those conversations always felt like transactions. With Marcus, it felt different. There was no agenda, no pressure, just two people talking, getting to know each other. Before long, Marcus had finished changing the tire. It had only taken a few minutes, but it felt like much longer, long enough for Olivia to realize that she didn't want this interaction to end. She thanked him sincerely, and Marcus smiled, telling her it was no trouble at all. But there was something about the way he looked at her, something in his eyes that made Olivia's heart race just a little bit faster. She hadn't expected to feel anything beyond gratitude, but something about the encounter lingered. "Would you like me to follow you to make sure you get there safely?" Marcus offered, his voice steady but warm. Olivia paused for a moment, considering it. She hadn't expected this kind of kindness, especially from a police officer. It wasn't that she was afraid to drive on her own, but the idea of having him nearby was oddly comforting. "That would be great," she said, not entirely sure why she felt so relieved by the offer. As she got back into her car, Olivia couldn't help but smile. She had been thrown off course by a flat tire, but in the end it had led to something unexpected, a moment of connection with a complete stranger. And while she had never been one to believe in fate or destiny, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just any ordinary encounter. It felt like the start of something more. As Marcus followed her car through the busy streets, Olivia found herself stealing glances at the rearview mirror. She knew that her day would soon go back to its usual frantic pace, but for now, she was grateful for this unexpected break, a moment of calm in the chaos of her life. Little did she know, this flat tire would be the beginning of a connection that would change both of their lives in ways they never could have imagined. In the following days, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about the encounter with Marcus. She knew it was just a simple act of kindness, nothing more, nothing less. After all, she had been stranded with a flat tire, and he had just helped her out. But as she went about her usual busy routine, there was something that lingered in her mind. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that Marcus wasn't just any police officer. He had something about him that made her feel seen, something she hadn't felt in a long time. The next morning, as she sat in her office reviewing some reports, Olivia found herself smiling unexpectedly. Her thoughts drifted back to that brief interaction, and she felt a warmth she hadn't expected. She quickly brushed the feeling aside, focusing on her work. There was always something to do, always another project to tackle, and she wasn't the type to let her mind wander too far. Yet, every time she looked at her phone or her calendar, a small part of her couldn't help but wonder about Marcus, who he was, where he came from, and whether she might see him again. It was later that afternoon when she received a message from an unknown number. At first she thought it might be a mistake. But when she opened the message, she saw that it was from Marcus. He had sent a simple, friendly text. "Hey, just checking in to make sure you made it to your meeting okay. Hope all went smoothly." Olivia couldn't help but feel a small flutter in her chest. It was a kind gesture, a message to make sure she was all right. She hadn't expected it, but it made her smile all the same. Without overthinking it, Olivia typed back, "Thank you, Marcus. Yes, I made it, though a bit late. Appreciate your help the other day." She paused for a second, wondering if it might be too forward, but then she hit send. It was a simple message, nothing more than gratitude, but she couldn't deny the pleasant feeling it gave her. To her surprise, Marcus responded quickly. "Glad to hear it. No problem at all. It was my pleasure. He then added with a light-hearted tone, "If you ever find yourself with another flat tire, you know who to call." That comment made Olivia laugh. It was charming in its simplicity, and for a moment it made her forget about the pile of tasks waiting for her. She smiled as she typed back, "I'll keep that in mind." From that day forward, their messages began to flow more easily. It started out as a friendly back and forth, nothing more than polite exchanges about small things. Olivia would occasionally text him if she had a question about her car, or if she was in need of directions. Marcus, on his part, would check in from time to time, making sure she was doing okay. It felt refreshing to her, especially given the high-paced, often impersonal nature of her daily life. The people she interacted with were often focused on business, on numbers and results. But with Marcus, there was something different, something that made her feel human again, not just a CEO or an entrepreneur. One evening, a few weeks after their first meeting, Olivia had just finished a long day at work. She was exhausted, and her mind was racing with thoughts of upcoming meetings, deadlines, and all the responsibilities she had. As she got into her car to head home, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Marcus. "I know you're probably busy, but I wanted to invite you to a community event this weekend. It's a charity dinner in the area. Thought it might be a nice break from work." At first, Olivia hesitated. She hadn't been to many events like that, and she wasn't sure if it would be the right fit. She had always been focused on work, attending only events that were strictly business-related. But something in Marcus's invitation made her think twice. It wasn't about business or networking. It was just about spending time together and supporting a good cause. The idea of stepping outside her comfort zone, away from the office and the never-ending grind, felt like a welcome change. She typed a quick response. "That sounds interesting. I've been so wrapped up in work lately, but I think I could use a break. Thanks for inviting me." Marcus replied almost instantly, "Great. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a pretty casual event and the food's supposed to be amazing." Olivia smiled as she put her phone down, her thoughts now drifting toward the weekend. For the first time in a while, she felt excited about something that didn't involve her company. It felt like a chance to experience something different, to be around people who weren't focused on profits or presentations, and, more importantly, it gave her the chance to spend more time with Marcus. That Saturday, Olivia found herself dressed casually, though still with her usual sense of style. She arrived at the event, a charming little venue nestled on the outskirts of the city with twinkling lights hanging from trees and the soft hum of live music filling the air. It was nothing extravagant, but there was a warmth to it that made Olivia feel immediately at ease. She spotted Marcus as soon as she entered, standing near the entrance, greeting people with a friendly smile. When he saw her, his face lit up. "Olivia, I'm so glad you could make it," he said, walking over to greet her. His enthusiasm was contagious, and Olivia couldn't help but smile back. There was something about his presence that made her feel comfortable, as if she didn't have to be anyone other than herself. "I'm happy to be here," she replied. "Thanks for inviting me. It's nice to do something different for a change." They spent the evening talking, laughing, and enjoying the event. It was a relaxed atmosphere, with no pressure to impress or to network. Olivia was surprised by how much she enjoyed the night. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was just a person, not a CEO or a businesswoman. She found herself opening up to Marcus more than she ever had with anyone else. They talked about everything, from their childhoods to their dreams for the future. She was amazed at how easy it was to talk to him. As the night wore on, Olivia realized something she hadn't anticipated. She was starting to enjoy Marcus's company more than she had expected. There was a natural chemistry between them, something unspoken but undeniable. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt so relaxed with someone. It was strange. She wasn't used to feeling this way, especially not with someone outside her world of work and business. But with Marcus, everything felt different. After the event, they walked outside together, where the cool night air greeted them. Marcus offered to drive her home, and Olivia accepted, not wanting the night to end. As they drove through the city streets, the conversation turned quieter, but there was still a sense of connection between them. Olivia could feel the chemistry, and she wondered if Marcus felt it too. She couldn't shake the thought, but she was unsure of how to navigate it. She had always been focused on her career, and relationships were never part of the plan. But with Marcus, everything felt more natural, more effortless. As they reached her apartment, Marcus pulled over and turned to her with a smile. "Thanks for coming tonight, Olivia. I really enjoyed it." "Me too," she said softly, feeling a little nervous but also happy. "Thanks for inviting me. I didn't realize how much I needed this." "Anytime," he said, his tone sincere. There was a pause, and then he added, "Maybe we can do it again sometime?" Olivia's heart skipped a beat. "I'd like that," she replied, her voice a little quieter than usual. It was the first time she had ever felt this way, and it was strange to admit, but she couldn't deny it. As she stepped out of the car, she looked back at Marcus with a smile. "Good night, Marcus." "Good night, Olivia," he said with a smile of his own. As Olivia walked into her apartment, she realized that she had enjoyed every moment of the evening. It wasn't just the event, it was spending time with Marcus. She felt something shift within her, a quiet but undeniable feeling that she couldn't quite name yet. All she knew was that something had started to change, and it was exciting. In the days that followed the charity dinner, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The event had been a pleasant surprise, a break from her usual routine. But more than that, it had allowed her to see Marcus in a different light. She had always known he was kind and dependable, but that night, she saw another side of him, a side that made her feel comfortable in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't just his warm smile or the way he listened so attentively. It was the way he made her feel seen, valued, and understood without any judgment or pretense. Back at work, Olivia threw herself into her responsibilities, as she always did. Yet, even as she focused on business, her thoughts would occasionally drift to Marcus. It wasn't a constant thing, but when she had a quiet moment, there he was again. His laugh, his easy way of putting her at ease. And while she didn't fully understand why she was thinking about him so much, she couldn't ignore it. It was like a small spark had been lit, and now it was just quietly smoldering. One afternoon, after a particularly intense meeting that had left her drained, Olivia received a text from Marcus. It was simple, just a quick message. "Hey, how's everything going with work? Hope you're not too overwhelmed." It made her smile. It was thoughtful, but not overbearing. She responded quickly, "It's been a bit crazy, but I'm managing. How about you?" His reply came almost instantly. "Same here, the usual craziness. I was thinking about grabbing dinner this week. You in?" Olivia didn't hesitate. She had been so focused on her career and responsibilities lately that she hadn't allowed herself the time to relax or do something just for her. The idea of spending time with Marcus again felt refreshing, like a small escape from the pressure of her world. "Dinner sounds great. Let's do it," she texted back. They set a date for the following Friday, and for the first time in weeks, Olivia looked forward to something that wasn't related to her work. The days in between were a blur, of meetings and projects, but every now and then, her mind would wander back to Friday when she would see Marcus again. It was becoming clear to her that she enjoyed his company in a way she hadn't expected. But even though she enjoyed their time together, she was hesitant to admit how much he was starting to mean to her. Friday arrived, and Olivia found herself preparing for the dinner with more anticipation than she cared to admit. She chose a simple but elegant outfit, something that made her feel comfortable but still polished. When the time came, she met Marcus at a cozy Italian restaurant in the city. It was the kind of place where the candles flickered softly on the tables and the smell of fresh pasta filled the air. Marcus was already there, waiting for her. When he saw her, he stood up and smiled. "You look great," he said, his voice warm. Olivia blushed slightly, not used to receiving compliments that weren't related to her work. "Thanks," she replied, feeling a little shy but also flattered. She sat down across from him and the waiter handed them menus. They talked easily, picking up where they had left off at the charity dinner. The conversation flowed naturally, with no awkward silences or forced topics. They discussed everything from their childhoods to their favorite books and movies. Olivia found herself opening up to him more than she usually did with anyone. She realized she was enjoying their time together more than she expected. For the first time in ages, she wasn't thinking about the next business deal or the next big project. She was simply present in the moment, enjoying good food and even better company. As the meal went on, Olivia couldn't help but notice the way Marcus looked at her. His eyes weren't just full of politeness or friendliness, they held something else, something deeper. She had seen that look before, but it was always fleeting, always guarded, especially in her world where everything had a purpose and a plan. But with Marcus, it felt different. She felt like he was truly interested in her as a person, not just the CEO of a successful company. When they finished their meal, Marcus suggested a walk around the city. It was a cool night, and the streets were quiet, with only a few cars passing by. They walked slowly, taking in the sights and talking about whatever came to mind. As they strolled through the park, Olivia began to feel a sense of ease she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just the relaxed pace of the evening. It was Marcus's presence, the way he made her feel at home in a way she hadn't realized she needed. Eventually, they found a bench and sat down, the city lights twinkling around them. For a moment, they sat in silence, just enjoying the peaceful night. Olivia looked over at Marcus, noticing how comfortable he seemed in this moment. She had always been so focused on work and the constant pressure to perform that she hadn't allowed herself to appreciate simple things like this. "This is nice," she said, breaking the silence. "I don't usually take the time to just sit and enjoy things." Marcus turned to her with a small smile. "You should do it more often," he said. "Life's too short to be constantly running around, don't you think?" Olivia nodded, her thoughts drifting. It was true. She had been so caught up in her goals and her responsibilities that she had forgotten what it felt like to simply enjoy life. She had spent so much time trying to prove herself, to build her company, that she hadn't stopped to appreciate the moments that made life truly worth living. "I've been so focused on my career," she admitted, her voice quiet. "I've forgotten how to just be. It's like I've been running a race for so long I forgot to look around and see what's actually happening." Marcus's expression softened as he listened. "I get that," he said. "It's easy to get caught up in the grind, especially when you're as driven as you are. But sometimes, it's okay to pause, to just breathe." Olivia felt a weight lift off her shoulders. There was something incredibly grounding about Marcus's words, something that made her feel like it was okay to let go of the pressure, even if just for a moment. She hadn't expected to have such an honest conversation with him tonight, but here they were, sharing a moment of vulnerability. And for the first time in a long while, she realized that it felt good to just be herself, without the expectations of the world weighing on her. As they continued to talk, Olivia found herself feeling a deep sense of connection with Marcus. It wasn't just about the chemistry between them, though that was undeniable. It was about the way he made her feel. He made her feel seen, not as the ambitious CEO, but as the person she truly was. Someone who needed rest, someone who needed to stop and enjoy the small moments in life. She realized that for the first time in a long while, she wasn't afraid to be herself with him. She wasn't worried about the image she projected or the way she was perceived. By the time the night came to a close, Olivia felt more at peace than she had in a long time. They said their goodbyes with a simple yet sincere hug. As she walked back to her car, she couldn't help but smile. There was something special about Marcus, something she hadn't expected. And while she wasn't ready to jump to any conclusions, she knew one thing for sure. Their friendship, and possibly more, was something worth exploring. As Olivia drove home that night, she reflected on how far she had come in such a short time. A few weeks ago, she had never imagined that a flat tire could lead to something like this. But now she found herself looking forward to whatever the future might bring with Marcus, feeling more hopeful and open to life than she had in a long time. As the days passed, Olivia couldn't help but notice how much her life had changed. The busy, fast-paced world she had spent years building for herself still existed, but now, there was something different. It wasn't just about her company anymore. There was a growing part of her heart and mind that seemed focused on Marcus. She hadn't expected to feel this way. She had always kept her personal life separate from her work life, believing that maintaining that balance was key to her success. But with Marcus, things felt different. She had no control over how quickly her feelings for him were growing. It was around this time that Olivia started to question herself more. She had always been clear about her goals. Her career came first. But Marcus had brought a new complexity to her life. She had never thought she'd find someone outside of her work that would matter as much as her business. Yet Marcus made her feel things she didn't expect to feel. Joy, peace, and something more vulnerable that she wasn't used to. She had spent so long building a shield around herself to protect against the pressure of being a young CEO that she hadn't let herself experience love or even the possibility of it. Now Marcus was slowly chipping away at that shield, and she wasn't sure how to handle it. One afternoon, she found herself in a meeting with her executive team, discussing the future of the company. But as they talked about projections and upcoming launches, her mind wandered. She couldn't concentrate as she normally would. Her thoughts kept drifting to the way Marcus made her feel, how easy it was to talk to him, how he understood her in a way no one in her professional world ever had. It wasn't just about his kindness, but the way he made her feel like she wasn't just a CEO, but a person with hopes and dreams. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that this was something she didn't want to push aside. When the meeting ended, she walked back to her office, feeling the familiar weight of her responsibilities returning. The meeting had gone well, but the thought of Marcus kept tugging at her. She had always been so focused on building her business and proving herself in a male-dominated field. But now, there was this gentle reminder in her heart that maybe it was okay to take a step back, to let someone in. The next time they met, it wasn't under the easy circumstances of casual dinners or walks through the city. Olivia was feeling more conflicted than usual. She hadn't expected her feelings for Marcus to grow so strong, and it had left her questioning what it all meant. She didn't want to be someone who balanced both a demanding career and a relationship. She feared that letting herself get close to someone could lead to distractions that might pull her away from the success she had worked so hard for. But when they sat down together that evening, something in the air felt different. It was as if both of them knew that they couldn't keep ignoring what was happening between them. Olivia looked at Marcus, and for a moment she could tell that he was thinking the same thing. There was a vulnerability between them now, a quiet, unspoken understanding. As they shared a meal, they talked less about the everyday things they had once discussed and more about the deeper emotions they were both grappling with. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," Olivia confessed, breaking the silence. "About my company, about my future, and about us." Marcus looked at her, his eyes soft but thoughtful. "I've been thinking about it too," he said gently. "I've always believed in balance and not letting anything overwhelm you. But I get it. You've worked so hard to get where you are, and I know how important that is to you." Olivia nodded, a little surprised by how well he seemed to understand her struggle. "It's not just work," she said quietly. "It's the idea that if I let someone in, if I let myself get close to someone, I'll lose focus. I can't afford to lose my focus." Marcus took a deep breath, leaning forward slightly. "I don't want you to lose focus," he said, his voice steady. "But I don't think that's what we're talking about here. It's about finding a way to have both, the career and the connection. It's not about choosing one over the other." His words hit her harder than she had expected. For so long she had told herself that she couldn't have both, a successful career and a meaningful personal relationship. But as she sat there with Marcus, she realized that maybe it wasn't a matter of choosing between the two. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to have both. "I don't know if I can do that," Olivia admitted, her voice filled with uncertainty. "I've never had to share my life with anyone in that way before. I've always been so focused on being independent, on handling everything on my own. Letting someone else in feels, like I might be giving up control." Marcus smiled softly as if he had anticipated her concerns. "I get it. I'm not asking you to give up anything. I'm just saying that sometimes it's okay to let someone else in, to let them help carry the load. You don't have to do everything alone." His words were comforting, but they also made Olivia feel a little exposed. She had spent so long building walls around herself, convincing herself that she couldn't rely on anyone. But now, sitting in front of Marcus, she felt something shifting inside her. It wasn't just about letting someone in. It was about trusting that person to see her for who she really was, not just the CEO, but Olivia, the person who had dreams, fears, and hopes beyond work. As the conversation continued, Olivia felt a strange sense of peace settle over her. She had always been afraid that letting someone into her life would weaken her, would make her vulnerable to failure, but with Marcus it felt different. He didn't want to take away her strength, he wanted to add to it. He didn't want her to choose between her career and a relationship. He wanted her to have both. That night, when they parted ways, Olivia couldn't help but feel a sense of clarity that she hadn't felt before. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. Marcus was someone she wanted in her life, not just as a friend, but as something more. As the days went on, Olivia found herself thinking more about the balance Marcus had mentioned. She began to question the idea that she had to choose between work and a personal life. Was it possible to have both? Could she find a way to have a successful career and a meaningful relationship without sacrificing either? It wasn't an easy answer, and Olivia wasn't naive enough to think it would be. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that she didn't have to have all the answers right away. She could take things one step at a time and trust that Marcus would be there, offering the support she never knew she needed. But with every passing day, the fear of losing control began to fade, replaced by a growing feeling of hope. She had built a career from the ground up, and that was a testament to her determination and hard work. But maybe, just maybe, there was room in her life for someone else. Someone who could share the journey with her, without compromising everything she had worked for. Olivia knew that it wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges ahead, especially as she tried to navigate her growing feelings for Marcus while maintaining the demanding pace of her career. But for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to take that step. She was no longer afraid of what might happen if she let someone in. With Marcus, she could see a future where both her career and her personal life could coexist. And for the first time in a long time, that future felt full of possibility. Over the next few months, Olivia's life began to shift in ways she hadn't anticipated. She found herself learning to balance the demanding world of her tech company with a growing, meaningful connection to Marcus. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when she questioned whether she could really have it all. Both the career she had worked so hard for and a relationship that was starting to feel like something deeper. But as the weeks passed, she realized something crucial. It wasn't about choosing between her career and Marcus. It was about learning how to integrate both into her life in a way that felt fulfilling. For the first time in years, Olivia didn't feel as though she was constantly running on a treadmill, trying to keep up with a pace that seemed unsustainable. She found herself smiling more often, and not just because of her company's success. It was because when she thought of Marcus, there was a sense of peace and joy that filled her heart. There were moments when she would be in the middle of a meeting, her mind buzzing with strategy and numbers, but a small thought of Marcus would come to her, maybe a memory of their last dinner or a quiet moment they had shared, and suddenly, everything felt a little less chaotic. It was like she had discovered a calm in the storm. One evening, after a particularly hectic day at work, Olivia was sitting in her office, staring at her computer screen. The glow of the screen illuminated her face, but her mind was far away. She had a major presentation coming up the next day, and her nerves were starting to get the best of her. Just as she was about to start going over her notes again, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus. "Hey, how's everything going? I know you've got a lot on your plate right now, but I wanted to check in." Reading his message, Olivia felt a sense of warmth spread through her. She smiled, grateful that he cared enough to reach out even when he knew she was busy. She quickly replied, "Thanks for checking in. It's been a bit crazy, but I'm hanging in there. How about you?" Marcus responded almost immediately. "Same here, just keeping busy. You're going to do great tomorrow, I have no doubt about it." His words were simple, but they meant more to Olivia than she cared to admit. The support he offered her wasn't just about encouragement. It was about the fact that he truly believed in her. It wasn't a superficial kind of support, the kind you often hear from colleagues or clients. It was genuine, from someone who truly cared about her as a person. That kind of support was rare, especially in her high-pressure world, and she had come to treasure it. Feeling a bit more grounded, Olivia decided to take a break from her work. She grabbed her things, sent a quick email to her team, and headed out to meet Marcus. She had learned that, sometimes, it was okay to step away from work even if just for a little while. As she walked into the small coffee shop they often met at, she immediately spotted Marcus sitting at a corner table, his warm smile greeting her as soon as he saw her. "You look like you could use a break," he said with a chuckle, standing up to pull out a chair for her. Olivia sat down, letting out a long breath. "I definitely do," she replied. "Work's been a bit much lately, but I think I'm starting to realize that I can't do everything on my own. I've been so used to carrying the weight of everything that I forgot it's okay to take a step back sometimes." Marcus nodded, his expression thoughtful. "It's easy to get caught up in the hustle, especially when you're passionate about what you do. But remember, you don't have to carry it all alone. You've got a team, and you've got people who care about you. You don't have to be perfect all the time." Olivia took a deep breath, letting his words sink in. It was true. She had spent so much time trying to prove to herself and others that she could handle everything. But the reality was that no one could do it all alone. And Marcus, in his quiet way, had helped her realize that it wasn't just about handling her career. It was about creating space for the people who mattered, including him. As they spent the evening together, sipping coffee and talking about everything and nothing, Olivia realized how much her life had transformed. She wasn't just the CEO of a successful company anymore. She was also a woman who had learned to embrace love, vulnerability, and the joy of letting someone in. And Marcus had been there for her every step of the way, offering support, encouragement, and understanding. By the time they said their goodbyes that evening, Olivia felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't just the calm she felt when she was with Marcus. It was the realization that she could have both, her career and a meaningful relationship. She didn't have to sacrifice one for the other. There would still be challenges ahead. There always would be, but now she had someone by her side who was ready to face them with her. The following day, Olivia walked into her big presentation with a sense of calm she hadn't anticipated. She had prepared as much as she could, but this time she felt less pressure. She knew that she had the support of her team, and she knew that no matter what happened, she had someone outside of work who believed in her. As she stood in front of the room presenting her ideas, she could feel Marcus's words echoing in her mind. "You don't have to do it all alone." And in that moment, she realized just how true that was. The presentation went well, better than she expected. When it was over, and she received congratulations from her colleagues, Olivia felt a sense of pride, not just because of her success, but because she had learned to balance her professional and personal life. She had stopped running on autopilot and had started to enjoy the moments in between. She had found a way to be both a strong, successful CEO and a person who could love and be loved in return. That evening, as she and Marcus walked together through the city streets, she realized just how much he had changed her life. He had shown her that it was possible to have a career and a relationship without losing herself in either one. And, for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what the future held. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew that she wasn't facing them alone. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their lives, finding ways to support each other and build something strong. As they stopped to enjoy a quiet moment together, under the soft glow of streetlights, Olivia turned to Marcus and smiled. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice filled with sincerity. "For everything." Marcus smiled back, his eyes filled with warmth and understanding. "You don't have to thank me," he said, his voice gentle. "I'm just happy to be here with you." And in that moment, Olivia knew that she had found something special, a love that didn't demand sacrifice, but instead complemented the life she had worked so hard to build. It wasn't just a fairy tale. It was real. And for the first time in a long time, Olivia felt truly content. The future was no longer something she had to face alone. She had found someone to share it with, someone who understood her dreams, her ambitions, and her heart. As they continued their walk, hand in hand, Olivia knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And that, she realized, was more than enough.